Well, the White House is announcing the latest round of provocation from Pyongyang. Thursday, North Korea threatened to carry out further rocket launches and a nuclear test targeted at the United States. Now, Washington said Pyongyang was being, quote, needlessly provocative and that such actions would violate UN resolutions and further isolate it diplomatically. Pyongyang's statement comes just days after the UN Security Council tightened sanctions on the country for launching a long-range rocket back in December. Sean King is Senior Vice President, Park Strategies. He joins us live out of New York. Sean, good to see you. What do you make of these latest happenings?
More of the same. Not surprised, and I expect them to follow through with the nuclear tests and rocket launches, and I hope we remain strong in the face of it as we've done so far.
What does remaining strong mean to you?
Continuing to keep our allies on side, taking it to the UN Security Council, not giving in, not restarting the six-party talks, not giving them concessions, but remaining them firm, let them sit in a corner, cry like a spoiled child, do it, get it over with, and then we move on.
Okay. Unusually, though, in this instance, we've got a situation where China is actually on the same side, apparently, as the U.S.
Well, they did join in the resolution, but the problem is last time they also circumvented the sanctions on North Korea. So let's see if they hold up their end of the bargain in terms of sanctions. But right now I would say I'm happy that they joined the resolution the other day, but let's see if they really mean it.
Okay, so you want to see them get back on board and play ball in terms of sanctions, but unusually you think that the long-term solution, what you'd like to see China do, or not do rather, is basically pull the plug on North Korean support.
Right. Short term, China has to uphold the sanctions. Long term, they have to move toward cutting off Pyongyang. North Korea only exists because of Chinese trade and aid. And without Chinese support, North Korea goes out of business within a few years. China doesn't want to see that because they know it is a geostrategic gain for the United States at its expense. But sooner or later, we hope China will cut North Korea loose, North Korea will fall, Korea will unite, and this problem will be resolved. Because the nukes are not the problem. They're a symptom of the problem. The real problem is the regime itself, which starves and denies its own people basic rights.
Well, you sort of hit the nail on the head there. I mean, because of the seriously dire conditions in North Korea, and it's been this way for as long as I can remember, if China does pull the plug on North Korea, they share a contiguous border. It means they have a massive people problem. We're talking refugees here, and that's something that China until now, though, has resisted greatly.
I disagree. If you look at East Germany in the 1980s, East German refugees went to Czechoslovakia and Hungary to gain refugee status in West German embassies so they could go to West Germany. But once the East-West German border was open, they went directly to West Germany. Some North Koreans in the early days of the North Korea collapse will go to China, but the vast majority of them, if they leave North Korea, will go south to South Korea. That's a red herring China pulls because it doesn't want to see North Korea collapse and a united Korea on its border. It's it's a smokescreen because they don't want to talk about the real issue.
So here's the thing: is South Korea ready for that, though?
Yes. They will not be ready tomorrow, but it's something they want. And the longer they wait, the higher the price tag will be. It will cost them a lot initially, but it will also save them a lot in all the money they spend on their defense now. It will also be a great new domestic market for Korean companies and be a sort of mini domestic China where they could produce more cheaply than having to go to China itself. Also, the security of a unified Korea will be guaranteed by the United States. So it won't be easy. It'll be much more difficult than German unification, although it could be easier at the same time because I think there's more will among Korean people to be united than there was among Germans. But it's something that has to happen, and the longer you delay it, the harder it will be. Sort of like pulling a tooth.
Yeah.
Sean, tell us how you think North Korea's weapons program is evolving. Does it seem to have picked up the pace since Kim Jong-un took over?
I think it's just pretty much gone along. North Korea has always been one of the most militarized societies on earth. Even though it has fewer than 30 million citizens, it has the fourth largest standing army in the world. And ever since the 1960s, they've been looking for nuclear weapons. They see it as the great equalizer or deterrent in the event of another Korean war with South Korea or the United States. And the United States put nuclear weapons in South Korea after the Korean War because we knew that China and the Soviet Union had its nuclear weapons near the Korean Peninsula. So we had to do that to balance it out and also to discourage South Korea from spending so much money on its own military at the expense of its economy. Because it's worth remembering, until the mid-1970s, North Korea was actually economically more advanced than South Korea was. So I don't see any unusual upward trajectory in the weapons program under Kim Jong-un. I just see it as continuing how it's been going for the last 50 years.
Okay, so here's a scary either-or question for you, Sean. Who do you think is closer to putting a nuclear warhead on a missile that can reach the United States? Is it North Korea or is it Iran?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because people are saying North Korea says we're the target of this nuclear test. North Korea is not going to shoot a missile at us. They're not going to shoot a rocket at us. Just means that their ultimate ideological enemy is the United States. That's nothing new. They're just more upset about it this time because we're so successful in the UN Security Council. I'm not a nuclear scientist, but if I had to bet based on what I've seen so far, based on the fact they've been in a war with us already, they've been looking for nuclear weapons since the 60s, and they've tested these missiles, if I had to put a bet, I'd say that North Korea is probably closer than Iran is. I think North Korea, though, is less likely to use it on us than, say, Iran would be on Israel. I think North Korea holds out a nuclear weapon as a deterrent or cover for another possible Korean war, and/or it might sell it to a third-party actor in search of hard currency, which it can't get otherwise because it will never open up its economy.
Wow. Okay. Scary thoughts there, Sean. We'll continue talking next time. Thanks for today. Sean King from Park Strategies joining us live out of New York.